I'm Jenny, and today we're going to have a really exciting and useful talk about one of the most important parts of learning English, listening. If you're preparing for the IELTS exam or just trying to improve your English skills, this episode will guide you step by step through everything you need to know. You can think of it as your full listening practice session and your full guideline on how to truly learn English in the most effective way. So, sit back, relax, and let's dive deep into it together. When people start learning English, most of them focus on speaking or grammar first. But what many forget is that listening is actually the foundation for all other skills. You cannot speak well if you cannot understand what others are saying. You cannot improve your pronunciation if you never hear how words are pronounced correctly. So, if you want to be fluent, confident, and natural in English, you must start with good listening habits. And that's why IELTS listening practice is not only for the test, it's for real-life communication too. Now, when we talk about IELTS listening, many learners feel nervous. They think it's difficult, too fast, or confusing. I completely understand that feeling. The first time I listened to an IELTS recording, I felt like I was lost in a sea of words. The accents were different, the pace was fast, and I missed a lot of details. But over time, I realized something important. IELTS listening is not about understanding every single word. It's about understanding meaning, tone, and the key information that helps you answer correctly. Once I learned that, everything became easier. So, let's start by understanding what IELTS listening really is. In the IELTS test, the listening section is designed to check how well you can understand spoken English in different situations. You will hear conversations, discussions, and short talks that reflect real-life contexts, like a student talking to a librarian, a person asking for travel information, or a lecture about science or history. Each section has its own purpose and style, but the main goal is to see how effectively you can catch information while listening once. Yes, only once, and that's what makes it challenging. The test has 4 sections, and the level of difficulty increases as you go. In the first part, you usually hear a simple everyday conversation like booking a hotel or asking for directions. The second part might be a monologue like someone giving information about a tour or explaining rules. In the third part, there's usually a group discussion, often between students and a tutor, and the fourth part is a short lecture, usually academic. You have to listen carefully and answer 40 questions in total. The answers come in the same order as you hear them, so the key is to stay focused from start to finish. Now, here's something I want you to remember. Listening is not a passive activity. It's active. You need to be mentally present and engaged. Many learners just play English audios in the background while doing other things and hope they'll improve. But that doesn't work. You need to listen with purpose. Ask yourself, what's the main idea here? What are they talking about? What are they trying to say? When you start asking questions in your mind, your brain becomes more alert and your understanding improves. Let me share a small story with you. I once had a student named Lisa who was preparing for IELTS. She had been studying for months, but her listening score was stuck at 5.5. She practiced a lot, but nothing changed. One day, I asked her to tell me what she actually did during practice. She said she played the recordings, read the transcript after, and then moved on. I realized her problem wasn't effort, it was focus. So, I told her to listen differently. Instead of just playing it once, I asked her to listen to the same recording 3 times, first to understand the main idea, second to notice specific information, and third to shadow the pronunciation. After 2 weeks, her score improved to 7. It wasn't magic, it was mindful listening. This is what I want you to do too. When you practice listening for IELTS, don't just aim to answer questions. Use every audio as a chance to train your ears. Focus on accent, speed, rhythm, and intonation. Notice how words connect, how speakers pause, and how they emphasize certain parts of sentences. This is how real understanding grows. English is not only about vocabulary, it's also about sound patterns. The more you train your ears, the more your brain becomes used to understanding native speed and accent. Speaking of accents, one big fear among IELTS students is British versus American accent. Some recordings have British speakers, others Australian or Canadian. But don't panic. The IELTS test uses a mix of accents because English is a global language. The trick is to expose yourself to different accents before test day. Watch British shows, listen to BBC podcasts, or Australian news. Try to understand without reading subtitles. It's okay if you don't understand everything. Your brain will start adapting naturally. Over time, you'll start recognizing patterns in pronunciation, and what used to sound fast or unclear will become easier. Another important thing is prediction. Before you start listening, always read the questions carefully. The IELTS Listening Test gives you a short time to look at questions before each section begins. Use that time wisely. Don't just stare at the paper. Try to predict what kind of information you might hear. Is it a number, a name, a date, or a location? When your brain knows what to expect, it becomes easier to catch the right answer. This simple step can make a huge difference in your score. Now, let's talk about a common problem, losing focus. You start listening, everything's fine for the first minute, but then your mind drifts away, and suddenly you've missed an entire section. This happens to almost everyone, even advanced learners. The reason is that our attention span is short, especially when listening in a second language. The solution is to build focus gradually. Practice with shorter clips first. Listen to 2 to 3 minutes of English speech and challenge yourself to stay fully focused. Then increase the length day by day. Think of it as training your brain muscles. The more you train, the stronger your focus becomes. When you listen, take quick notes. But don't write too much. Some students try to write every word and end up missing the next part. Instead, write down keywords, numbers, names, or short phrases that help you remember. Your goal is to catch meaning, not to copy the transcript. For example, if you hear, "The museum opens from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., just write museum 10 to 6. Simple, short, effective. Another powerful way to improve listening is through shadowing. Shadowing means listening to a short piece of audio and repeating what you hear immediately, like an echo. This helps you understand rhythm, pronunciation, and speech flow. It also improves your speaking skills because your mouth learns how English actually sounds. When you shadow, don't worry if you can't repeat every single word. Focus on matching the tone and pace. Do this daily, even for 5 to 10 minutes, and you'll notice big improvement in both listening and speaking. Now, let's talk about something deeper, learning English beyond the test. IELTS listening practice can be your training ground, but learning English is a lifelong journey. You can use everything you learn for real-life communication, not just for an exam. If you truly want to master English, you need to live with it every day. Surround yourself with the language. Change your phone settings to English. Listen to English music. Watch movies in English. Think in English. Talk to yourself in English. Make English a part of your lifestyle, not just a subject you study. When you do this, learning becomes natural. You stop translating in your head and start understanding directly. That's when fluency starts. I know it can be challenging, especially when you live in a country where people don't speak English often. But technology has made it easier. You can listen to podcasts, join online conversation groups, or even talk to AI chat partners to practice. The more you expose yourself, the faster you'll improve. Let's imagine you are walking to school or work. Instead of listening to random songs, play an English podcast. Even if you understand only 50% at first, don't stop. Keep listening. Your brain will slowly fill in the gaps. You'll start catching familiar phrases, and soon, those phrases will come naturally to your tongue when you speak. Listening is like planting seeds. The more you listen, the more your speaking and writing skills grow automatically. In this series, I'll also guide you through specific techniques that can help you practice better. But before we get there, I want to remind you, be patient. Learning English, especially listening, takes time. You cannot expect to go from confusion to clarity in 1 week. It's like learning to play an instrument. First you struggle, then you adapt, and finally, you play smoothly. Every minute you spend listening is building your internal English system. So don't get frustrated by mistakes or difficulty. They are part of your growth. All right, let's pause here and reflect for a moment. You've learned that IELTS listening is about understanding meaning, not words. You've learned the importance of focus, prediction, and exposure to accents. You've learned that listening should be active, not passive. And you've learned that real improvement comes from making English a part of your life. These are the foundations. In the next part, we'll go deeper into practical techniques, like how to identify key information, handle tricky question types, and manage your time during the test. We'll dig into the real techniques, the kind that can help you not only score high in IELTS, but also truly understand English the way native speakers do. Let's start with something very important: how to listen for key information. When you listen to English, not every word matters. In IELTS listening, especially, there are many filler words or extra phrases that are not essential for the question. You have to train your brain to focus on the core meaning. Imagine you're a detective. The speaker gives you a lot of details, but you're only looking for clues that match the question. Those clues are usually keywords like names, dates, prices, times, or locations. They stand out. When you read the questions before listening, underline or circle these key terms. That way, your brain will automatically tune in when you hear something similar. For example, if the question says, "What time does the train to London depart?" Your ears should be ready for time expressions. Maybe you'll hear 8:15, 8:15, or 15 minutes after 8. Don't expect the speaker to use the same words as the question. IELTS loves to use paraphrasing. So you need to be aware of synonyms and similar expressions. That's why vocabulary plays such a huge role in listening. You may not need to memorize thousands of difficult words, but you should recognize common rephrasing patterns. For instance, book a room could also be said as make a reservation. Cheap might be replaced with affordable. Expensive might become costly. The more you listen to real English materials, the more your brain automatically starts noticing these variations. Now, one of the best exercises for this is transcript comparison. Here's how you can do it. Pick an IELTS listening recording or any English podcast that has a transcript. First, listen once without looking at the script.
Try to understand as much as you can.
Then, listen again while reading the transcript. Notice the words you missed. Finally, listen a third time without the script again, focusing on catching those missed parts. This is such an effective method because it trains both your ears and your eyes to connect sounds with words. Over time, you'll find that your listening accuracy improves dramatically. Another big part of IELTS listening is question type awareness. There are different types of questions: multiple choice, form completion, map labeling, sentence completion, short answers, and matching. Each one requires a slightly different approach. Let me explain it simply, without any technical terms. When you have multiple choice questions, don't just wait to hear the correct answer word for word. The speakers often mention all the options, and one of them might be a trap. They might say something like, "At first, we thought of visiting the museum, but in the end, we decided to go to the zoo instead." If the options are museum, zoo, or park, the correct answer is zoo. Many students get confused because they hear museum first and choose it quickly. That's why you must listen until the end of the idea. IELTS loves to test your attention like that. For form completion, you often need to write down short details such as phone numbers, dates, or names. The best thing you can do here is train your ear to recognize numbers and spellings quickly. You can practice this daily. Ask a friend to read random phone numbers or addresses, or listen to recordings with numbers in them. Write them down. It's a simple habit that can make a huge difference in your test performance. Map labeling questions are also common. They might describe directions like turn left, go past the cafe, next to the post office, and so on. This is where visual imagination helps. When you practice, try to visualize what you're hearing. If you hear go past the bank and take the second right, imagine walking there in your mind. Visualization strengthens your comprehension because your brain connects sound with image. Another tricky one is sentence completion. You have to fill in missing words in a sentence. Here, prediction is your best tool. Before listening, read the sentence and think, what kind of word could fit here? Is it a noun, a verb, or a number? If the sentence says, the weather was extremely ____, you know the missing word is probably an adjective. Your brain becomes alert to adjectives like cold, hot, rainy, or pleasant. When you expect something, you hear it more easily. Let's talk about time management during the test. Many students say they lose marks because they run out of time or panic when the recording starts. So here's what you can do. Always use the short breaks between sections wisely. The test gives you a few seconds to read the next set of questions. Don't waste it. Take a deep breath. Focus your eyes on the next part and scan quickly for numbers, names, and keywords. Don't read every word, just catch the key ones. This few seconds of focus can help you follow the audio smoothly when it starts again. After each section, you'll also get some time to check your answers. Use that time to make sure your spelling is correct. Spelling mistakes can cost you marks even if your answer is right. For example, if the correct answer is library and you write library, you lose the point. So practice writing common English words correctly. You can even make a spelling list of frequently used IELTS words and review it regularly. Now, let's go beyond the test again for a moment. Listening skills are not just for exams. They shape your communication in real life. Have you ever noticed that when you talk to someone who's not a native speaker, the biggest problem is not speaking but understanding each other? That's why strong listening skills make you a better communicator. When you understand clearly, you respond naturally and confidently. You can follow conversations, movies, podcasts, and real discussions easily. So even when you're not studying for IELTS, keep practicing listening every day. Here's a fun way to practice. Watch English movies or shows without subtitles, but not all at once. First, watch a small part with subtitles to understand the context. Then, replay the same part without subtitles and see how much you can catch. You'll notice that each time, your ear catches more. Over time, your listening ability becomes automatic. I used to do this with my favorite series. I would watch the same scene 3 or 4 times until I could understand almost everything without reading. It was like turning entertainment into learning, and it really worked. Another great activity is listening and repeating, also called shadow listening. I talked a bit about shadowing before, but let's go deeper. Choose short clips, maybe 1 or 2 minutes long. Listen carefully and then repeat what you hear immediately, trying to match pronunciation, speed, and tone. It's okay if you pause or miss a few words. The idea is to train your mouth and ears together. This technique helps your brain link sound to speech, and soon you'll not only understand better, but also speak more fluently. And remember, you don't need fancy materials. You can use YouTube videos, podcasts, or even songs. Music, especially slow songs with clear lyrics, is a beautiful tool for listening practice. When you sing along, you learn pronunciation, rhythm, and stress patterns naturally. You can start with simple English songs and gradually move to faster ones. Don't worry about sounding perfect, just enjoy the process. Now, let's talk about note-taking skills, something that can help you in both listening tests and real life. Many learners try to write full sentences while listening, and that's a big mistake. You'll miss a lot of information because the speaker won't wait for you. Instead, use short forms and symbols. For example, use W/for with because, or arrows like for increase and for decrease. Develop your own note system. It saves time and keeps your attention on listening rather than writing. One thing I tell all my students is, don't panic when you miss something. It's normal. Even native speakers don't catch every single word in a conversation. If you miss one part, don't lose focus trying to remember it. Let it go and move forward. The next answer might come right after, and if you keep thinking about the one you missed, you'll lose that too. Train your mind to stay calm and flexible. IELTS listening is not about perfection. It's about performance under pressure. You can also practice your concentration by listening in slightly noisy environments sometimes. That might sound strange, but it's useful. During the real test, you might hear other students moving, coughing, or writing. You should be able to stay focused despite small distractions. So sometimes, play English audios while sitting in a cafe or a place with light background noise. It's like focus training for your brain. All right, let's move to a topic that most learners overlook: understanding tone and attitude. IELTS listening sometimes asks questions like, what is the speaker's opinion? Or, how does the speaker feel about this topic? These questions test your ability to understand emotions in speech. English speakers express feeling not only through words, but also through tone. For example, if someone says, "Oh, that's just great," It could be genuine or sarcastic depending on how they say it. You need to listen for tone, not just vocabulary. The more you expose yourself to real conversations, movies, and interviews, the better you'll get at identifying emotions and attitudes through sound. Finally, let's talk about motivation. Listening practice can sometimes feel boring or repetitive, especially when you don't see quick results. But remember, progress in language learning is invisible at first. You don't notice it day by day, but one day you suddenly realize you can understand a full conversation that used to feel impossible. That's your proof that it's working. Celebrate those small moments. Every new phrase you catch, every sentence you understand, is a step toward fluency. Don't compare your progress to others. Everyone learns differently. You're not just preparing for an exam. You're building a skill that will stay with you for life. English listening is your bridge to global communication. It helps you study abroad, work internationally, travel confidently, and connect with people everywhere. So, stay patient, stay consistent, and trust the process. I promise, if you keep practicing with intention and curiosity, you'll get there. I'm going to show you how to make English listening a natural, enjoyable, and daily part of your life. Because true progress happens not just during test practice, but in the small moments of your everyday routine. Let's begin with one truth that I always tell my students. You can't master English listening in a classroom alone. You master it in real life. When English becomes a part of your daily environment, your ears start recognizing the patterns of the language automatically. Think about how children learn their first language. They don't memorize vocabulary lists or grammar rules first. They just listen over and over every single day. They listen to their parents, friends, TV, songs, and one day they start speaking naturally. You can use the same method, no matter your age or level. It's called immersion. And the good news is, with technology today, you can create your own English environment right at home. Let's say you start your day in the morning. As soon as you wake up, instead of scrolling through social media or checking messages in your native language, play an English podcast. It could be something educational, like BBC Learning English, or something entertaining, like a travel or storytelling podcast. The goal isn't to understand every single word, but to make your brain start the day in English mode. When your ears get used to English first thing in the morning, it sets a tone for the whole day. Your brain becomes more open to receiving English information naturally. After that, whenever you do your regular daily tasks, like brushing your teeth, cooking, or exercising, keep listening to something in English. It could be YouTube videos, audiobooks, or even English radio. I know it might sound simple, but these background listening moments train your subconscious mind. You might not notice it immediately, but over weeks and months, you'll start recognizing familiar expressions and phrases automatically. This is what we call passive learning, and it's extremely powerful when combined with active listening practice. Now, active listening is when you focus intentionally. You sit down, pay attention, and analyze what you're hearing. This could be your IELTS listening practice, or it could be watching an English interview and trying to understand every idea. Both passive and active listening work together. Passive listening helps your ear get comfortable with sounds, while active listening helps your brain understand meaning. So, plan your day to include both types. For example, you could do active listening for 30 minutes and passive listening throughout the rest of your daily routine. Another wonderful idea is what I call theme-based listening. Each week, choose one topic and listen to everything you can about it in English. Let's say your topic this week is travel. Listen to podcasts about travel, watch YouTube videos where people talk about travel experiences, and maybe even listen to travel guides or documentaries. By the end of the week, you'll not only improve your listening but also learn a lot of topic-specific vocabulary. This helps in IELTS too, because the listening test often includes topics like travel, education, health, and environment. So you'll be improving your score without even realizing it. Here's another very effective trick. Listen and summarize. After listening to something in English, try to explain it back in your own words, either by speaking or writing. It doesn't have to be perfect. The goal is to check if you understood the main ideas. You can say something like, "I just listened to a podcast about how to stay healthy. The speaker talked about exercising regularly and eating fresh food." This simple exercise forces your brain to process the information deeply, and that's how you retain it better. You can do this for any audio, even songs or short news reports. And speaking of songs, let's talk about music for a moment. Music is one of the best teachers of English rhythm, pronunciation, and emotion. When you listen to songs, you get to feel the language. The words stick in your memory because they're connected to melody. Try to sing along with your favorite English songs. Don't worry about your voice. This isn't a singing competition. It's about learning the sounds. You can also look up the lyrics, understand them, and then sing again. The next time you hear those words in conversation, you'll recognize them instantly because you already practiced them through music. Now, let's move to another creative technique. Watching with purpose. Many learners watch English movies or TV shows just for entertainment, but if you do it the right way, it becomes a very powerful learning tool.
Here's how.
Choose a short clip from a movie or show you like, maybe 2 or 3 minutes long. First, watch it with subtitles and focus on understanding the meaning. Then, watch the same clip again without subtitles and try to catch as many words as you can. Finally, watch it one more time while repeating some lines aloud, trying to match the actor's pronunciation. This is called movie shadowing. It's fun, and it builds your listening and speaking fluency together. Another great tool for daily listening practice is audiobooks. If you like stories or novels, find the audio version of a book you enjoy and listen to it for 15 to 20 minutes a day. You can even read along with the text if you have it. This combination of reading and listening at the same time improves both your pronunciation and comprehension. Choose something not too difficult, maybe children's books or simple fiction at first, then slowly move to more advanced materials. Now, I want to talk about something that many learners struggle with: frustration. There will be days when you feel like you're not improving, or you still can't understand everything. And that's okay. Remember, language learning is not a straight road. Sometimes you'll feel stuck, but those are the moments when your brain is actually processing and reorganizing everything you've learned. So don't quit when you feel slow. Keep listening. Even when it feels pointless, it's working silently inside your mind. When I was learning another language myself, there were times I couldn't understand what people were saying even after months of study. But then one day, it suddenly clicked. I started catching words and phrases naturally. That's how it happens. You might not see progress day by day, but one day you'll realize you understand a podcast or movie that used to feel too fast. That moment of surprise is your reward for consistency. Let's talk about some practical tools that can help you make listening a part of your life. If you use your phone, apps like Spotify, BBC Sounds, VOA Learning English, and TED Talks are amazing. They have short and long audios for all levels. You can adjust the speed, download episodes, and listen anywhere, even offline. You can also use YouTube playlists for IELTS listening or general English listening. Just make sure you choose content that matches your level, not too easy, not too difficult. The goal is to challenge yourself, not to frustrate yourself. Another fun and effective method is language shadow challenges. You can set small goals like, I'll shadow one short English clip every day for a week. Record yourself while repeating what you hear, then listen to your recording and compare it with the original. You'll notice differences in pronunciation and rhythm. Over time, your ear becomes sharper and your speaking becomes smoother. This activity is not only for pronunciation, it's also excellent listening training because you're forcing your brain to pay close attention to every sound. Now, let's connect this back to IELTS specifically. You can use all these daily activities to strengthen your performance on the test. For example, when you listen to English news, pay attention to numbers, dates, and facts, just like in IELTS Part 1 or Part 2. When you listen to group discussions and podcasts, it's similar to IELTS Part 3, where you hear multiple speakers. And when you listen to lectures or documentaries, it's just like IELTS Part 4. So, without even sitting in front of an IELTS paper, you're training your ears to handle all those listening contexts naturally. I also want to share one small secret with you. Repetition is your best friend. Listening to something once is not enough. Listen to the same material multiple times. The first time, focus on the main idea. The second time, focus on details. The third time, focus on pronunciation and rhythm. You'll be amazed how much more you understand each time. This repetition builds deep familiarity with English sounds and helps your brain recognize patterns faster. Here's another powerful mindset tip. Treat English like a friend. Talk to it, listen to it, spend time with it, and enjoy it. Don't treat it like a school subject that you have to pass. When you see English as a living, breathing part of your world, your motivation becomes natural. You'll want to listen more, not because you have to, but because it feels rewarding. Now, let's talk about something that helps both listening and speaking, thinking in English. Many learners struggle because they always translate from their native language before speaking or understanding. This creates a delay. The key is to start thinking directly in English. You can practice this in small steps. For example, when you're walking outside, describe what you see in English in your mind. The sky looks beautiful today. I'm walking to the shop. There's a little dog playing. Simple thoughts, but they train your brain to use English naturally. The more you do it, the less you'll depend on translation. If you want to make this habit fun, you can keep a listening journal. Each day, write down what you listened to and what you learned from it, maybe a new phrase, pronunciation pattern, or an interesting topic. This helps you track your progress and stay motivated. Over time, when you look back, you'll realize how far you've come. Before we move to the next part, I want to share one final story with you. I once had a student named Aaron who used to say, "Jenny, I listen every day, but I still can't understand movies without subtitles." I told him to keep listening, but also to repeat small parts aloud every day, just 1 or 2 minutes. He did it for 3 months, and one day, he sent me a message. "Jenny, I watched an entire movie today without subtitles and understood 90%. That's what happens when consistency meets patience. You can do it too. So, my dear listener, remember these 3 golden rules for listening. Listen every day, listen with attention, and listen with joy. Don't wait for perfection. Start where you are, and progress will come. I'll talk about how listening can actually become your most powerful tool for learning English naturally, not just for the IELTS test, but for life. Because when you learn through listening, you're training yourself the same way children learn their first language, by hearing, repeating, and connecting sound to meaning. That's how real fluency begins. Let's start by thinking about how we learned our first language. None of us started with grammar books or vocabulary lists. We listened to our parents, friends, and people around us. We heard the same sounds, words, and phrases again and again, and slowly our brains started to understand patterns. We didn't even know what grammar was, but we used it correctly. That's the magic of natural learning. Your brain learns the rhythm, pronunciation, and meaning through repetition and context. When you apply that same method to English, everything becomes easier. Instead of memorizing rules, you begin to feel the language. Now, many English learners make a big mistake. They focus too much on reading and writing, and they forget that language is sound. English lives in sound. That's why listening is not just one of the 4 skills. It's the foundation of all the others. If you listen more, you speak better. You also read faster and write more naturally because you understand how real English works in conversation. The tone, the rhythm, the way words connect, all of that can only be learned through listening. I often tell my students that listening is like food for your brain. Every time you listen to English, your brain gets stronger in understanding. Even when you don't notice it, your subconscious mind is working. For example, maybe you're listening to a podcast and you hear the phrase, "by the way," several times. You don't stop to translate it, but one day, it naturally comes out of your mouth while speaking. That's how natural learning works. You absorb the language instead of forcing it. So, how can you use listening as your main learning tool? The first step is to choose materials that you genuinely enjoy. Don't listen to something just because someone said it's good for IELTS. Listen to what keeps you interested. Maybe English stories, travel vlogs, lifestyle talks, or even comedy. The more you enjoy it, the longer you'll listen, and the more you'll remember. Motivation is energy, and energy is what keeps you consistent. When I was learning French, I noticed something amazing. I stopped studying from textbooks and started listening to French radio every day. I didn't understand much at first, maybe 30%, but I kept listening. After 2 months, I realized that I was catching familiar phrases and I could guess meanings from context. That's exactly what happens when you keep listening to English, even if you don't understand everything. Your brain starts recognizing sounds, patterns, and words naturally. You start hearing English, not translating it. Now, let's talk about something that makes listening so powerful: context learning. When you hear a new word in context, you don't just learn the meaning, you learn when, how, and why it's used. For example, if you hear someone say, "I'm running late," you instantly understand that it means I'll be late, not I'm physically running. You also understand the emotion. Maybe the person sounds worried or apologetic. This kind of learning stays in your memory much longer because it's connected to feeling and situation, not just translation. Another reason listening is such a strong teacher is that it helps you develop your inner ear for English. You start recognizing the difference between similar sounds like ship and sheep or beach and bitch. These sound differences are tiny, but they completely change the meaning of words. If you only study with books, you'll never notice them. But when you listen regularly, your ear becomes sharper and you start pronouncing words correctly without even thinking about it. Listening also helps you understand the music of English, the rise and fall of voice, the pauses, and the emotions behind words. For example, when someone says "really" with a high tone, it might mean surprise. But if they say "really" with a flat tone, it might mean disbelief. These subtle differences show you the emotion and attitude of the speaker. This is super helpful not just in IELTS but also in real conversations, because communication is more than just words. It's emotion, rhythm, and sound. Now, let's connect this to IELTS. When you practice listening every day, you're not only training your ear, you're training your brain to think in English. This helps you answer faster during the test because you're no longer translating. You're understanding directly. That's what high scorers do. They don't translate in their heads. They just understand. So, if you want to reach Band 8 or 9, daily listening should be part of your lifestyle, not just a study task. Many learners ask me, "Jenny, how can I make listening a habit?" And I always say, make it easy and enjoyable. For example, start your morning by listening to a short English podcast while you're getting ready. Then, during lunch or a walk, listen to an English story or interview. Before sleeping, listen to English again, maybe something relaxing like an audiobook. You don't need to understand everything. The goal is to keep English flowing through your mind all day. The more you hear, the more natural it becomes. You can even set small listening goals. For instance, listen to one topic per week. One week could be about travel, another about technology, another about relationships. This helps you build topic vocabulary, which is also useful for IELTS. Because remember, IELTS listening often uses specific topics: environment, education, health, society. So, the more you listen to these themes, the more comfortable you'll be in the test. Now, let's talk about a very important part of listening: repetition. Listening to something once is never enough. The first time, your brain is just trying to catch the main idea. The second time, you start noticing new details. The third time, you begin to understand pronunciation, linking, and tone. Repetition is what moves information from short-term memory to long-term memory. It's how your brain truly learns. So, never feel bored repeating the same audio. It's actually one of the smartest ways to learn. When you repeat listening, you can use the pause and imitate method. Play a short sentence, pause, and repeat it exactly like the speaker. Try to copy the accent, speed, and emotion. This improves not only your listening but also your speaking fluency. You'll sound more natural because you're training your mouth and ear together. This technique is especially powerful for IELTS speaking too. It teaches you how to use natural intonation like a native speaker. One more advanced technique is transcript study. Find listening materials that come with transcripts. First, listen without reading. Then listen again while reading. You'll notice which words you missed and why. Maybe the speaker connected two words like gonna or wanna, or maybe they reduced a sound. Pay attention to those moments. That's how real spoken English works. Once you understand those patterns, you'll never be confused by fast speech again. Now, let's talk about patience. Listening improvement takes time. You can't force it. You might feel frustrated when you don't understand everything, but that's normal. Think about how long it took you to master your first language. Years. So don't expect miracles in a few weeks. What matters is that you keep going. Even 15 minutes of focused listening every day is enough to create real change. Your progress will be silent at first, and then one day, it'll surprise you. There's also something psychological that helps. Confidence. Many learners doubt themselves and think, "My listening is terrible." But that mindset blocks progress. Instead, tell yourself, "I'm training my ears. I'm getting better every day." Your brain listens to your attitude. Positive thinking opens your mind to learning faster. So, even when you make mistakes, don't criticize yourself. Celebrate that you're learning. If you want to take your listening to the next level, try listening actively and creatively. For example, after listening to a short English story or news clip, try summarizing what you heard in your own words. It doesn't have to be perfect, just try. This forces your brain to process and organize what you heard. It's great for both listening and speaking improvement. You can even record yourself and compare your summary with the original. That's how you train self-awareness. Listening also connects you to culture. When you hear native speakers, you're not just learning English. You're learning how people think, feel, and express themselves. You understand humor, idioms, and everyday expressions that you won't find in grammar books. This cultural understanding makes you sound more natural and confident when you speak. It also helps you understand the IELTS listening context better because many recordings are based on real-life situations from English-speaking countries. Sometimes students ask me, "Jenny, should I listen with or without subtitles?" My answer depends on your level. If you're a beginner or lower intermediate, subtitles help you connect sound to meaning. But as you improve, try to remove them slowly. Challenge yourself to understand without reading. That's how you develop real listening power. You can also use bilingual subtitles at first, English and your native language, but only for understanding the main idea. Then switch to English-only subtitles and finally, no subtitles at all. Remember, your goal is to understand English as sound, not as text. The world doesn't come with subtitles, so training your ears is the only way to achieve real fluency. The more you listen, the more you'll trust your ears, and that trust will give you the confidence you need in both IELTS and real life. Before I end this part, I want you to remember something important. Listening is not just a skill, it's a connection. When you listen in English, you're connecting with people from different countries, backgrounds, and ideas. You're opening your world. And that's what language is truly about: communication, understanding, and growth. So keep listening, keep learning, and never stop believing that you can improve. You've learned the mindset, daily habits, and natural learning strategies, but now we'll focus on something even more powerful, turning all that knowledge into a clear, long-term listening plan. Because improving your English listening is not about short-term effort. It's about creating a routine that becomes part of your life. Once it's part of your daily rhythm, you'll grow automatically, day by day, word by word, sound by sound. Let's begin with something most learners forget. Progress in listening doesn't happen in a straight line. Some days you'll feel amazing. You'll understand everything easily. Other days you might listen to something and feel lost, even though you've been practicing for weeks. That's completely normal. The brain learns in waves, not in one smooth line. So, don't worry when you feel stuck. It's actually a sign that your brain is adjusting to a new level. You're preparing for a breakthrough moment, even if you don't see it yet. The key is to keep going. Consistency is your secret weapon. Now, when it comes to building your own listening plan, the first thing to decide is your daily routine. It doesn't have to be long or complicated. In fact, shorter and regular sessions are more powerful than long, irregular ones. For example, listening for 30 minutes every day is better than listening for 3 hours once a week. Your ears need daily contact with English to stay sharp. It's like watering a plant. If you do it a little every day, the plant grows healthy and strong. But if you water it once a week, it struggles to survive. Your listening ability works the same way. So, here's how to structure your listening day. Start your morning with something easy and enjoyable. Maybe a short English podcast, a news clip, or a YouTube video about a topic you love. Don't worry about understanding every word. Just listen to get your brain warmed up. This is like a morning workout for your ears. Then, during lunch or a break, you can listen again, maybe an IELTS practice recording or a real conversation clip. In the evening, when you're more relaxed, listen to something longer, like an English story, movie dialogue, or interview. Listening before bed is also excellent because your brain continues processing sounds while you sleep. You'll wake up with slightly better understanding each day. It's true. This is how language memory works. Next, you need to set a clear goal for each week. For example, week 1 could be about getting used to different accents, British, American, Australian, and so on. Week 2 could focus on listening for main ideas. Week 3 could focus on identifying specific details like names, numbers, or places. Week 4 could be about speed, listening to faster speakers and trying to catch the meaning without pausing. When you train your ears step by step like this, your progress becomes visible and measurable. You should also balance your practice between active and passive listening. Active listening means you focus fully. You listen carefully, take notes, repeat sentences, and check transcripts. This builds your accuracy and concentration. Passive listening means you let English play in the background while doing other things, like cooking, cleaning, or walking. This builds your familiarity and comfort with natural sound. Both are important. Active listening builds skill, passive listening builds fluency. Together, they make you unstoppable. When you start this plan, record your journey. Write down what you listened to, how much you understood, and what new words or expressions you learned. You can use a simple notebook or your phone. This record helps you see how far you've come. Many learners don't realize their progress because they don't track it, but when you look back after 1 month, you'll notice big improvements. You'll see that something which once felt too fast now feels easy. That's proof that your listening brain is growing stronger. Now, let's talk about environment. The space around you matters more than you think. Try to make your environment full of English sound. Change your phone language to English. Watch English movies without dubbing. Follow English YouTube channels and listen to English songs. Surround yourself with the language everywhere. This is called immersion, and it's one of the most effective ways to train your brain. The more you live with English, the less it feels like study. It becomes part of your normal life. That's when real fluency begins. If you're preparing for IELTS, you also need to focus on specific listening test techniques. Practice with official IELTS listening materials at least once or twice a week. Listen to all 4 sections carefully, starting from easier conversations to more academic talks. When you make mistakes, don't rush to the next test. Instead, listen to the same recording again. Find out why you missed the answer. Was it because of accent, speed, or vocabulary? Identify the weakness and work on it. That's how top scorers study. They analyze their mistakes instead of ignoring them. You can also improve your IELTS listening by expanding your topic knowledge. The test includes various topics like environment, education, technology, travel, and health. So listen to podcasts, TED Talks, and YouTube videos related to those topics. The more you know about them, the easier it becomes to guess meaning during the test. IELTS is not only about English. It's about understanding content quickly. When your background knowledge is strong, your brain can predict what's coming next, and that's how you save time and improve accuracy. Let's talk about another crucial skill: note-taking while listening. In IELTS, you need to write answers as you listen, and that can be stressful. The secret is to learn how to listen and write at the same time. Practice this skill daily. When you listen to an English video, try writing down key words instead of full sentences. Focus on numbers, dates, names, and important points. Over time, your brain will learn to filter important information automatically. That's the same skill IELTS tests, identifying key information under pressure. But here's something many learners forget: relaxation matters. If you're too nervous during the listening test, your brain blocks information. You might know the answer, but anxiety makes you miss it. So, practice listening in a calm state. Take deep breaths, stay positive, and remind yourself that understanding is a natural process. If you miss one answer, don't panic, move on. Many students lose focus because they worry about one missed question, and then they miss the next 5. Learn to stay present and focused. Listening is as much about psychology as it is about language. Now, let's talk about pronunciation awareness. When you practice listening, also pay attention to connected speech. Native speakers often connect words like going to becomes gonna, want to becomes wanna, did you becomes didja. These small reductions are everywhere in IELTS recordings and real conversations. The more you notice them, the easier it becomes to understand fast speech. You can also try shadowing. That's when you repeat after a native speaker in real time, trying to match their tone and rhythm. This trains both your ear and your speaking muscles. You'll start sounding and understanding more like a native speaker. One of my favorite ways to practice listening is through storytelling. Stories are powerful because they include emotion, rhythm, and context. Listen to English short stories or audiobooks regularly. Don't worry about new words. Focus on feeling the emotion of the story. Try to imagine the scenes, the voices, the situation. This kind of emotional listening helps your brain remember vocabulary naturally, and it improves comprehension faster than dry academic materials. It also keeps you motivated, because who doesn't love a good story? Another technique that helps tremendously is self-testing. Once or twice a week, test your listening level by using IELTS mock tests or online listening quizzes. But remember, tests are not for judgment, they're for feedback. They show you where you need to focus more. Maybe your weakness is spelling or recognizing numbers. Maybe you struggle with multiple choice questions. Whatever it is, focus your next week's listening around that skill. This turns your mistakes into learning opportunities. Now, let's talk about mindset again, because it's the heart of everything. Many learners give up too early because they compare themselves with others. But language learning is not a competition. It's a journey. Everyone learns differently. Some people improve faster, others slower. What matters is that you keep walking. Even small progress is still progress. The only real failure is giving up. So, be kind to yourself. Celebrate small wins, like understanding a movie scene without subtitles or catching every word in a podcast. These moments are signs that you're growing. You should also reward yourself for consistency. Maybe treat yourself after completing 1 month of regular listening. Celebrate your dedication. Positive reinforcement keeps motivation alive. Remember, your listening ability is not fixed. It's a skill that grows with every sound you hear. So even when it feels hard, remind yourself that every minute of listening brings you closer to fluency. Let me share something inspiring with you. One of my students, Maria, started her IELTS preparation with very weak listening skills. She couldn't understand even half of what she heard. She used to panic every time she took a practice test. But she didn't give up. She followed a daily routine, 30 minutes of active listening, 1 hour of passive listening, and weekly test practice. She also listened to English music, movies, and podcasts just for fun. After 3 months, her score jumped from band 5.5 to band 8.5. She told me something beautiful. Jenny, I didn't realize when I started understanding English naturally. It just happened one day. And that's exactly how it works, slow, invisible, and then suddenly everything clicks. If you're listening to me right now, I want you to know that you can do the same. No matter your starting point, you have the ability to improve. Your ears can learn any sound. Your brain can adapt to any accent. The only thing you need is patience and consistency. Don't aim for perfection. Aim for progress. One day, you'll look back and realize how far you've come. Before we close, let's summarize the secret to long-term success. Listen every day, mix active and passive listening, track your progress, repeat materials often, and stay positive. Choose content you love, because emotion helps memory. Surround yourself with English sound everywhere. And never forget, listening is not just for IELTS. It's for life. It's the door to understanding people, cultures, and ideas across the world. You are not just learning English to pass a test. You're learning it to express yourself freely, to connect with others, and to open new opportunities. Every time you listen, you're building that future. So keep going. Keep listening. Keep growing. You're doing something amazing for yourself, even if you can't see it right now. Thank you so much for joining me, Jenny, here on English Lab. I hope this full guideline on IELTS English listening practice has inspired you, guided you, and given you a clear plan to follow. Remember, your listening journey doesn't end here. It's just beginning. So, keep practicing, stay confident, and trust the process. You'll get there. Until next time, stay curious, stay positive, and keep learning English with love and passion. This is Jenny from English Lab, signing off. I'll see you in our next episode, and remember, your ears are your teachers. Let them guide you to fluency.